On August 6, 2001, a memo landed on the president's desk with the headline, "Bin Laden Determined to Strike in US." 36 days later, 2,977 people would be dead. But here's the part that will haunt you: that memo wasn't the only warning. There were dozens. FBI agents, CIA analysts, foreign intelligence services. They all saw it coming. The intelligence existed. The pieces were there. Someone just needed to connect them. Welcome to Hindsight History, where we don't just tell you what went wrong. We show you what could have gone right. Let's rewrite history. Summer, 2001. America is riding high. The dot-com bubble has just burst, but the economy is still strong. George W. Bush has been president for 7 months. The biggest national debate is about tax cuts and stem cell research. Most Americans have barely heard of Osama bin Laden. But in the dark corners of the intelligence community, alarm bells are ringing. Meet Cofer Black, director of the CIA's Counterterrorism Center. In the summer of 2001, Black is watching intelligence chatter reach levels he's never seen. He'll later describe it as the system blinking red. On July 10, he and CIA Director George Tenet rushed to the White House to brief National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice. Their message is urgent: al-Qaeda is going to strike. But Black isn't alone in his concerns. July 10, 2001, the same day as that White House meeting. FBI Special Agent Kenneth Williams sits at his desk in Phoenix and types up a memo that should have changed everything. Williams has noticed something strange: Middle Eastern men with connections to al-Qaeda are enrolling in American flight schools. Not to become airline pilots, to learn how to fly commercial aircraft. His memo, now known as the Phoenix Memo, recommends a nationwide investigation of flight schools. The memo gets sent to FBI headquarters. It's marked urgent. And then nothing happens. Meanwhile, in Minneapolis, FBI agent Coleen Rowley is dealing with her own nightmare. August 15, 2001. Local flight instructors report a suspicious student, Zacharias Moussessa, a French-Moroccan man who wants to learn to fly a 747 but has no interest in learning to take off or land. Just steer. Rowley's team arrests Moussessa and discovers he has connections to Islamic extremists. They beg FBI headquarters for permission to search his laptop. Permission denied. Not enough evidence. That laptop contained the phone numbers of the 9/11 plot leaders. But it gets worse. August 23, 2001. The CIA finally tells the FBI about 2 known al-Qaeda operatives, Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. These men are already in the United States. The CIA has known this since January 2000, nearly 20 months earlier. The FBI begins a desperate search, but it's too late. Al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi are already in San Diego, training for their mission. Little did anyone know, they had 19 days left. September 11, 2001. 7:59 a.m. Eastern Time. American Airlines Flight 11 pushes back from the gate at Boston's Logan International Airport. Captain John Oganowski is at the controls. Flight attendants Betty Ong and Madeline Amy Sweeney prepare for what they think will be a routine flight to Los Angeles. In the cabin, 81 passengers, including 5 men who've spent months planning for this moment. 8:14 a.m. Flight 11 takes off. Betty Ong picks up an earphone in the back of the plane. Her voice is calm but urgent, the cockpit is not answering. Somebody stabbed in business class. And I think there's mace. We can't breathe. Air traffic controllers hear a voice they don't recognize coming from Flight 11, "We have some planes. Just stay quiet and you'll be okay." The hijackers have accidentally broadcast to ground control instead of the cabin. Some planes. Plural. Let that sink in for a moment. Boston Air Traffic Control alerts NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command. Fighter jets are scrambled from Otis Air Force Base, 153 miles away. But Flight 11 is already turning south, heading directly for Manhattan at 500 miles per hour. 8:46 a.m. American Airlines Flight 11 crashes into the North Tower of the World Trade Center between floors 93 and 99. 1,355 people in the tower above the impact zone are now trapped. The stairwells are destroyed. Elevators are out. Flames reach 2,000 degrees. From the windows, people wave shirts and jackets, hoping someone will see them. Wait, it gets worse. At this moment, most Americans watching on television think this is a terrible accident. A pilot error. A navigation mistake. But in Newark, New Jersey, United Airlines Flight 93 is boarding. In Dulles, Virginia, American Airlines Flight 77 is pushing back. And at Logan Airport in Boston, United Airlines Flight 175 has already been in the air for 31 minutes. A flight attendant on United 175 makes a phone call. The pilot is having trouble maintaining altitude. He's not answering. United Airlines Flight 175 hits the South Tower. The entire nation now understands this is an attack. Inside the towers, people are making impossible choices. The heat is unbearable. The smoke is suffocating. Some choose to jump rather than burn. At least 200 people fell or jumped from the burning towers. The impacts were recorded at seismic stations across the city. But the attacks aren't over. 9:37 a.m. American Airlines Flight 77 crashes into the Pentagon. 125 people die in the building instantly. And now, there's still one more plane in the air. United Flight 93 is somewhere over eastern Ohio, heading back toward Washington, D.C. But something different is happening on this plane. The passengers know about the other attacks. Using airphones and cell phones, they've learned their flight is part of a coordinated assault. They're not going to land safely. They're missiles. Todd Beamer, a 32-year-old software salesman, is on the phone with a GTE operator named Lisa Jefferson. He asks her to pray with him. Then he says words that will echo through history. Are you ready? Okay. Let's roll. The passengers storm the cockpit. 10:03 a.m. Flight 93 crashes into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, at 563 miles per hour. All 40 passengers and crew aboard are killed. But they saved countless lives. The intended target, later confirmed to be either the White House or the U.S. Capitol, remains standing. Back in New York, something unthinkable is about to happen. 9:59 a.m. The South Tower collapses in 10 seconds. 110 stories of steel and concrete become a cloud of dust that rolls through lower Manhattan like a tsunami. 10:28 a.m. The North Tower follows. The towers, each 1,368 feet tall, symbols of American prosperity, are gone. 2,977 people are dead. 343 firefighters. 71 law enforcement officers. 2,563 civilians. Citizens from over 90 countries. Mothers. Fathers. Sons. Daughters. Janitors. Executives. Chefs. Analysts. Heroes who stayed behind to help others escape. It's the deadliest terrorist attack in human history. And the deadliest day for firefighters in American history. And the deadliest day for law enforcement in American history. The entire attack, from first impact to second tower collapse, lasted 102 minutes. Less than 2 hours to change the world forever. So how did the most powerful intelligence apparatus in the world miss this? The answer is more frustrating than you think. Because they didn't miss it. They saw it coming. They just couldn't, or wouldn't, put the pieces together. The 9/11 Commission, a bipartisan investigation that spent 2 years analyzing what went wrong, identified not one catastrophic failure, but a series of systematic breakdowns. Let me break them down for you. First, the wall. Since the 1970s, there had been a legal and cultural barrier between intelligence agencies, like the CIA, and law enforcement, like the FBI. This was called the wall. The CIA could spy on foreign threats. The FBI could investigate crimes. But they couldn't easily share information with each other. Think of it like this: imagine if your smoke detector could detect fire but wasn't allowed to tell your fire alarm to ring. That's essentially what was happening. This is why the CIA didn't tell the FBI about al-Qaeda and al-Hazmi for 20 months. It's not that they forgot, they literally had policies against sharing. Second, what the Commission called a failure of imagination. Nobody in power truly believed terrorists would use planes as weapons against buildings. Here's the thing, they should have. In 1994, Algerian terrorists hijacked Air France Flight 8969 with plans to crash it into the Eiffel Tower. French commandos stormed the plane in Marseille and stopped them. In 1995, Philippine authorities disrupted Operation Bajinka, an al-Qaeda plot to hijack 11 planes simultaneously and crash one into CIA headquarters. In 1999, a U.S. intelligence report warned that bin Laden might hijack an aircraft and use it as a weapon. The blueprint was there. But senior officials dismissed it as too Hollywood, too unrealistic. Deputy CIA Director John McLaughlin would later testify, "We had the dots. We just didn't connect them." Third, the warnings that were ignored. Remember that presidential daily brief from August 6? Here's what President Bush was told. Bin Laden determined to strike in U.S. The memo mentioned FBI investigations of suspicious activity in this country consistent with preparations for hijackings. The president was told 36 days before the attack. In writing. When the 9/11 Commission asked National Security Advisor Condoleezza Rice about this, she testified that the briefing was historical, meaning it didn't contain specific, actionable intelligence. But that Phoenix Memo from FBI Agent Kenneth Williams? That was specific. Flight schools. Middle Eastern men. Al-Qaeda connections. It was sent to 2 people at FBI headquarters and 2 people at the FBI's International Terrorism Operations Section. Not one of them acted on it. And then there's Moussa's laptop. Agent Coleen Rowley's team in Minneapolis knew he was dangerous. They knew he had extremist ties. They begged for permission to search his computer. FBI headquarters said no. They needed more evidence to meet the legal standard for a search warrant under FISA, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. After the 9th of November, investigators finally opened the laptop. Inside, phone numbers, contact information, and details linking him directly to the Hamburg cell that planned the attacks. 1 search warrant. That's all it would have taken. Finally, the watch list failure. Al-Qaeda and al-Hazmi, the 2 terrorists the CIA knew about, entered the United States on January 15, 2000, through Los Angeles International Airport. Their names were not on any watch list. Why? The CIA didn't put them there. They assumed the State Department or FBI would handle it. These men lived openly in San Diego for over a year. They were listed in the phone book. They used their real names. Al-Qaeda even left the country and came back, twice. If their names had been on a watch list, they would have been stopped at the border. You might be wondering, how is this possible? The answer comes down to 3 things: bureaucracy, ego, and resources. Intelligence agencies were competing with each other instead of collaborating. Nobody wanted to share information that might make their agency look bad or give another agency credit. Budget constraints meant not enough analysts to review all the intelligence coming in. And perhaps most damaging, a culture that valued collecting intelligence over acting on it. As the Commission concluded, the most important failure was one of imagination. We do not believe leaders understood the gravity of the threat. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Everything needed to stop this already existed. And I can prove it. So let's rewrite history. What if, just what if, someone had connected the dots? I'm about to show you 4 specific interventions that were completely available in 2001. Any one of them could have disrupted the plot. Together, they would have stopped it cold. Solution 1. The Information Sharing Fix. Create a joint CIA-FBI counterterrorism task force with shared databases and daily briefings. Imagine if, instead of keeping al-Midha and al-Hazmi's information siloed at the CIA, a joint task force had access to all intelligence in real time. In this timeline, when the CIA learns in January 2000 that these men are coming to the US, FBI agents are in the same meeting. Within hours, their names go on every watch list: TSA, State Department, Border Patrol. January 15, 2000. Al-Midha and al-Hazmi land at LAX. An alert pops up on the customs agent's computer. They're detained. FBI counterterrorism agents arrive for questioning. Under interrogation, investigators discover their connections to al-Qaeda. They're deported or arrested. 2 of the 5 hijackers on American Airlines Flight 77, the plane that hit the Pentagon, are gone. Joint task forces already existed for drug enforcement. The DEA and FBI had been running them successfully since the 1980s. In fact, after the 9th of November, this exact solution was implemented. It's called the National Counterterrorism Center, and it opened in 2004. It works. Terrorist plots have been disrupted because of shared intelligence. The barrier in between. Turf wars. The CIA didn't want to give up control to the FBI. The FBI didn't want CIA agents operating domestically. Both agencies wanted credit for any successes. It would have required presidential directive to force cooperation. Cost, minimal, maybe $50 million annually for shared facilities and technology integration. That's 0.1% of the intelligence budget at the time. With al-Midha and al-Hazmi out of play, the Pentagon attack likely doesn't happen. That's 125 lives saved instantly, plus the 64 people on Flight 77. But wait, we're just getting started. Solution T. The Phoenix Memo investigation. The solution: immediately launch the nationwide flight school investigation that Agent Kenneth Williams recommended. July 10, 2001. Williams sends his memo. In our alternate timeline, instead of sitting in someone's inbox, it's flagged as high priority. Within 48 hours, the FBI director orders every field office in America to review flight school enrollment records for students matching Williams' profile. In Huffman Aviation in Venice, Florida, investigators find Marwan al-Shayyi and Mohammed Atta, the pilots of Flight 175 and Flight 11. In Arizona, they find Hani Hanja, the pilot of Flight 77. These men are questioned. Background checks reveal connections to known terrorists. At minimum, they're put under surveillance. But here's where it gets really interesting. The technology existed. The FBI already maintained the National Crime Information Center, a database that could track persons of interest across state lines. Flight schools were required to report foreign students to the FAA. The records were there. And this exact type of investigation was recommended in a 1999 report about aviation security threats. The framework was ready to go. The FBI's counterterrorism budget was overstretched. They'd need to pull agents from other cases. Politics. Flight school owners might complain about harassment of customers, particularly Middle Eastern students. Fear of accusations of racial profiling. Time. FBI headquarters wanted to be absolutely certain before launching a huge operation. They were playing it safe. In this scenario, 13 of the 19 hijackers, those who trained at US flight schools, are either in custody or under tight surveillance by early August 2001. The plot is now essentially impossible to execute. You can't hijack a plane if you're in an FBI interrogation room. Even if a few slip through surveillance, their co-conspirators are gone. They can't coordinate. Solution 3. The Musesa laptop search. Lower the legal threshold for FISA warrants in terrorism cases or create an emergency exception for imminent threats. August 16, 2001. Musesa is arrested in Minneapolis. Agent Rowley's team requests permission to search his laptop. In our timeline, FBI headquarters and the FISA court need more evidence. In the alternate timeline, Congress had passed a law in 2000 allowing expedited FISA warrants when FBI field agents certify an imminent national security threat. Rowley certifies. A judge reviews. Warrant approved within 24 hours. August 17, 2001. Investigators open the laptop. Inside were names, phone numbers, email addresses, a web of connections leading directly to Mohammed Atta, the ringleader of the plot. The FBI now has 25 days to roll up the entire cell. This isn't speculation. After the 9th of November, Congress passed the USA Patriot Act in October 2001, which loosened FISA requirements for exactly this type of situation. The legal framework could have been created earlier. It just wasn't a priority until after the attack. Civil liberties concerns. Many lawmakers and advocacy groups worried about giving law enforcement too much power to conduct searches without traditional probable cause. The political will didn't exist before the 9th of November. After? It passed 98-1 in the Senate. With the laptop evidence, the FBI connects the dots: Atta in Florida, al-Shayhi in Florida, al-Hazmi in California, Hanja in Arizona. There would have been a mass arrests. The plot unravels, then September 11, 2001, is just another Tuesday. Solution 4. Take the August 6 memo seriously. Treat the August 6 presidential daily brief as an imminent threat requiring immediate action. The briefing says bin Laden is determined to strike the US and mentions hijackings. In our alternate timeline, President Bush does what President Clinton did in December 1999 when he received similar warnings. He declares a domestic security emergency. The president orders all law enforcement on high alert. Enhanced airport security nationwide. Review of all flight school enrollments for foreign nationals. Expedited background checks on visa holders from high-risk countries. FAA orders reinforce cockpit doors immediately on all commercial aircraft. That last one is crucial. Reinforced cockpit doors were already being tested in Europe. US airlines could install them within weeks. Every single measure I just listed was technologically and logistically possible in August 2001. In fact, after the 1988 Lockerbie bombing, the President's Commission on Aviation Security recommended many of these exact measures. They were just never fully implemented. Cost of operation: airlines estimated reinforced cockpit doors would cost $300 to $500 million industry-wide. Possible inconvenience: enhanced security means longer lines, more delays, unhappy passengers. The last major terrorist attack on U.S. soil was Oklahoma City in 1995, 6 years earlier. The urgency had faded. Even if every other intervention fails, even if all 19 hijackers make it onto those planes, they can't get into the cockpits. Hijackings in 2001 historically involved forcing pilots to fly somewhere. Without access to the cockpit, the hijackers are just armed passengers. Flight attendants and passengers have already been briefed on new hijacking protocols: resist, don't comply. The planes land safely. Hijackers are arrested. 0 deaths. So let's take a look at which solution was most likely to work. The most feasible solution: the Phoenix Memo investigation. It required no new laws, no new technology, just action on existing intelligence. The most effective solution: the Joint Task Force. It solves the systematic problem long-term, not just this one plot. The fastest solution: taking the August 6 memo seriously. The president could have ordered immediate action that day. The most cost-effective solution: the Musesa laptop search. 1 warrant, $0 additional cost, entire plot exposed. Here's the part that should make you angry. None of these required hindsight. None required technology from the future. Every single intervention was available, affordable, and achievable. People in the system were screaming for action. Agent Williams. Agent Rowley. Director Black. Director Tenet. They saw it coming. And they were ignored. The most heartbreaking part? The information existed. The resources existed. The recommendations existed. All it would have taken was one person in power to listen. So what did we learn? After the 9th of November, the United States transformed its entire intelligence apparatus. The reforms cost billions of dollars and changed how we live our daily lives. The Patriot Act passed. The Department of Homeland Security was created, combining 22 federal agencies. The National Counterterrorism Center finally broke down the walls between intelligence agencies. Cockpit doors were reinforced on every commercial aircraft. The TSA was born, and with it, the security procedures we all know: shoes off, liquids in bags, full-body scanners. It worked. The reforms prevented future attacks. But here's the uncomfortable question. How many of these reforms would have happened if someone had just acted on the intelligence in 2001? This isn't just about 9/11. It's about a pattern we keep repeating. Think about it. The 2008 financial crisis, warning signs ignored by regulators. The COVID-19 pandemic response playbook sat unused. The January 6th Capitol riot, intelligence warnings dismissed. Climate change, scientists sounding alarms for decades. In every case, experts raised flags. In every case, those in power said, it won't be that bad. In every case, it was worse. We have a systemic problem. We're really good at analyzing disasters after they happen. We're terrible at preventing them before they do. Former 9/11 Commissioner Thomas Keane said it best: this wasn't a failure of intelligence. It was a failure to act on intelligence. But here's the hopeful part: when we do listen, when we do act, we save lives. Since 2001, U.S. intelligence agencies have disrupted dozens of terrorist plots. Information sharing works. Joint task forces work. Taking threats seriously works. In 2006, a plot to blow up transatlantic flights was stopped because of shared intelligence between the US and UK. In 2009, cooperation between agencies stopped the New York City subway bombing plot. In 2010, the Times Square bomber was caught because of coordination we didn't have in 2001. The system, when it functions, saves lives. So what's the takeaway for you? This isn't just a history lesson about 9/11. This is about how humans make decisions under uncertainty. It's about the cost of ignoring experts. It's about how pride, politics, and bureaucracy can override common sense. And it's about the courage to speak up when something seems wrong. Agent Kenneth Williams wrote that memo knowing it might be ignored. He did it anyway. Agent Coleen Rowley fought for that search warrant knowing she might be overruled. She did it anyway. After the 9th of November, both of them were named Time Magazine Persons of the Year for their whistleblowing efforts. The next time you see warning signs being ignored, in your workplace, in your community, in your government, remember: one person speaking up can change everything. One memo. One meeting. One decision. That's all it would have taken. So here's my question for you. If you were the FBI agent who received the Phoenix Memo on July 10, 2001, what would you have done? Would you have pushed harder? Risked your career to force an investigation? Or would you have done what most people do: trust the system, assume someone above you knows better, and file it away? It's easy to judge with hindsight. It's harder to act when the threat is still abstract. But that's exactly when action matters most. 2,977 names are engraved on the 9/11 Memorial in New York City. 2,977 people who went to work, boarded planes, made coffee, answered emails, kissed their families goodbye. 2,977 names that didn't need to be there. The intelligence existed. The solutions existed. The warnings existed. All it needed was someone to listen. Now I want to hear from you. Which solution do you think would have been most effective? The Phoenix Memo investigation? The Joint Task Force? The laptop search? Or forcing airlines to reinforce cockpit doors? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you think I missed something, if there's another intervention that could have worked, tell me. I read every comment. If you want more stories like this, disasters that could have been prevented, solutions that were ignored, history rewritten with the benefit of hindsight, hit that subscribe button. Next week, we're covering the Challenger explosion, 7 astronauts who didn't have to die, and the engineers who tried to stop the launch. You won't want to miss it. And if this story frustrated you, you need to see our video on the Chernobyl disaster, where policies were ignored for career benefits. Link in the description and in the end screen right now. History doesn't have to repeat itself. We just have to be brave enough to listen to the warnings. To question authority when something doesn't feel right. To act, even when it's uncomfortable. Because somewhere, right now, there's another memo sitting on someone's desk. Another warning being dismissed. Another agent trying to get someone to pay attention.